Money. The word is used so much in the world, and I want to just do a couple of messages just on some considerations when we think about money. Money is so powerful in the world, and so many things are rooted in it, and the one thing, it can easily be misperceived or are used in the wrong way and stuff like that, and are misunderstood. And so I want to just focus on some messages on the topic of simply what does the Bible say about money, just some things to consider about money. Let's look at a couple of verses as we kind of lay the foundation and get into the topic of money. And I really want to focus only on two aspects, what it is and what it isn't. And so we can understand what it is, so we can use it in a proper manner. And so we also can understand what it isn't, so that we won't use it for what it isn't. Let me start with Ecclesiastes chapter number 10 and verse number 19. It says, "Bread is made for laughter, and wine gladdens life, and money answers everything." So it says bread is made for laughter, wine gladdens life, and money answers everything. Everything that is happening in the world can somehow be traced back to what money has to say. Just like bread itself does not laugh, but laughter is established around it, meaning eating. You sit around, you have a meal, and you laugh with your family, with your friends. And so laughter is really established or built around bread, and so eating together brings laughter. And so, but itself doesn't laugh, but it is laughter established around it. And wine of itself is not glad, but causes gladness when taken, or is taken because of gladness, a celebration. And so people are glad and therefore take wine, or they want to be glad and take wine. And so, but it's really a picture of celebration. That celebration is built around wine. And so life on earth is really organized with and around money. So it says, that is like just, you want to talk about something, you will end up talking about money. You want to do something, you will end up talking about money. You want to find the answers on how and what we're going to do, you will end up talking about money. And so it's one verse that really talks, money answers everything, it says. And so, of course, is not talking about everything, because Ecclesiastes talks about life under the sun. So it doesn't talk about faith. It references faith, and the idea is to bring us to faith. But it's really talking about what life is like under the sun. And so that's really what when it says money answers everything from a worldly perspective, it does. But there's also verses that give a deeper understanding of money. And so this one says money answers everything, that everything we do on earth, we'll somehow get, the question will come up, do we have the money for it? Or we'll come back to what does money have to say about it. And so, but there's also verses that touch on a deeper or different aspect of money in the scripture. I like 1 Chronicles 21 verse 24, it says, "But King David said to Ornan, no, but David was going to offer the sacrifice to make things right with God." And so really what we see here is cost brings value. Something that costs nothing seems to have no value. And so cost brings value. But King David said to Ornan, no, and Ornan wanted to give David everything for the sacrifice and everything. He says, no, but I will buy them for the full price. I will not take for the Lord what is yours, nor offer burnt offerings that cost me nothing. He says, I will not offer to God something that costs me nothing. I will not offer burnt offerings that cost me nothing, because it will have no value, it'll have no purpose, it'll have no meaning. It is the cost that brings value. And so here David, of course, he wanted to, rather than keep his money, which he could have, he wanted to use his money to bring value to what he was offering here specifically to God. And so cost does bring value to things. And so that is one of the things when we think about money, we have to consider that sometimes when we do ministry and stuff like that, it's frustrating that money always has to be involved. I wish I could minister and never have to think about money, never have to think about cost or anything like that. But cost really does bring value, and so it shows us that there's value attached, or that things must be valuable. There's also another verse that talks about, and I'm using verses that give a very general reference to money and the meaning of money. And now we're going to get into what money is not. But Luke chapter 9, verse 3, it says, and Jesus sent his disciples. And so what we see here is that there is a greater purpose. God's work is greater than money. Luke 9, verse 3, it says, and he said to them, take nothing for your journey, no staff, nor bag, nor bread, nor money, and do not have 2 tunics. And so he told them pretty much to strip themselves of everything, staff, bag, bread, money, and only 1 tunic. Just to be simply, with the clothes on your back, you go. What he was teaching him, that God's work is greater than money. What God is doing is greater than money. Even from an earthly perspective, money answers everything. But from God's work perspective, it doesn't. And so he is teaching him that we're doing something bigger. I mean, I will provide, I will lead, I will take care of you, I will protect you, I will use you. I will use not the things that you have, but I will use you. And that's one of the things that's very important for us to know, is sometimes you think, I don't have money, how could God use me? I don't have things, I don't have staff, I don't have bag, I don't have bread, I don't have money, I don't have extra. How could God use me? And God was teaching them that his work is greater than money, greater than things, greater than earthly possessions. And so a couple of verses that really just give us a little bit of an overview of money. We're going to get into a lot more detail. But when we use the word money, words in direct relation to money, one of them is price. Price is a word that is directly related to money. Silver is another one. These are words that I could find in the Bible that were related to the word money. And so price is always rooted in money. Silver itself would have no value if it wasn't for money, and money wouldn't have no value if it wasn't for silver. Really, the silver determines the value of money, and money determines the value of silver. And so estimation is another word. When we estimate something, we use money as a basis. And so estimation is a word that is directly related to money. Wealth is another word. When people have things, It is really what they are worth, how much money they could be sold for, that determines the wealth that people have, and then value, what things value. So price, silver, estimation, wealth, and value are words that are very directly related to the word money. But let's not spend more time on this. Let's look at what is money, or what is it not. Things that money is not. Number one, it is not a king or a master. Money is not a king or a master. Some people have said that money makes a lousy king but a great servant. I guess in certain sense it makes a great servant, but money is not a king. In Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 18, it says, you shall appoint judges and officers in all your towns that the Lord your God is giving you according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. And it says, you shall not pervert justice, you shall not show partiality, and you shall not accept a bribe. For a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of the righteous. Justice and only justice you shall follow, that you may live and inherit the land that the Lord your God is giving you. And so he says, really don't fall for money. Don't fall for a bribe. A bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of the righteous. And so money is not a king. It should not rule. Matthew chapter 6 verse 24 says, no one can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. And listen to this. You cannot serve God and money. You cannot serve God and money. Money is not to be a king. A king rules. A king decides what is important. A king leads. A king establishes order. A king makes a decision what war we enter, what cause we fight for, why we do what we do. A king does that. And money is not a king. We should not treat it as a king. We should not obey it as a king. We should not appoint it as a king. We cannot serve God and money, and so the decision really is between the two. Not both, one or the other. And so when we set up money as a king, God is dethroned. God is removed as our master, as the one we serve. We can serve money or we can serve God. The options are only those two, and one or the other. And so he says you cannot serve God or money. And so money is not a king. It's not to use to bribe. It's not to use to control. It's not to use to get our way. What we do when we live for a king, we live for his cause. We develop his kingdom. We establish ourselves. Our strength is manifested in our king, and so money is not a king. Number two, what money is not. Money is not a seat. I'm sitting on this stool right now to support me. It's my security. It keeps me from falling. Money is not a seat, a source of security. It is very, very much used as the source of security. Luke chapter 12, verse 13, and carrying on all the way to verse number 21, talks about this very thing. And so I always say money is a tool, and it's not a seat, and it's not something we sit on. It's not something we establish ourselves upon our places, our security. Luke 12:13, it says, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide inheritance with me." And he wants Jesus really to step in and put some order, and this one wants to get his way. But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge and an arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness." Then he says, "For one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentiful. And he thought to himself, 'What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops.' And he said, 'I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. Use it as your seat. Relax upon it. Your comfort, your security, a way to take off the pressures of life, the worries of life, be merry, enjoy," he says. But God said to him, "Fool, this night your soul is required of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God." God used an example. He says, your money is not your seat. It's not something you sit upon. It's not made for that. It's not a security blanket. It's not a covering. It's not a protection. It's not something to trust on because it will make itself wings and fly away. Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, "He who loves money will not be established with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity," he says. "When goods increase, they increase who eat them. And what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much, but the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. There is a grievous evil that I have seen under the sun," he says. What is this grievous evil? Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt. Riches kept by the owner to his own hurt. And those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again. Naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil, that he may carry away in his hand. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go. And what gain is there to him who toils for the wind?" Wow, what an illustration. Don't use money as a seat, as your security, as yours. This is my protection. I'm going to be okay because I have money. Money is not a king. Money is not a seat. Number 3, money is not a presentation of life. We already read this verse, but I'm going to read it. I love this verse. Luke 12:15. We read through that passage. And he said to them, take care and be on your guard against all covetousness. Listen to this, what it says. It says, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. For one's life does not consist. It's not rooted in this. It is not built in this. It is not expressed from this point of view. For one's life does not express itself, does not root itself, does not contain itself, does not find its very source in the abundance of his possessions. So, in the Old Testament, people were described by the things that they had. When God expressed that Job was a righteous man, he talked about the camels and the animals and the family, the children he had. He expressed, but the New Testament is exactly the opposite. People's righteousness is not expressed on what they possess, but what they forsake, what they've forsaken for him. The disciples, they forsook all for him. And so Jesus, and here Jesus, of course, speaking to these Jewish people, they're thinking, boy, I have riches, I am really someone, I have a good standing before God and before people. I am valuable, I am important, and so Jesus uses this verse, and he says, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses. And so he says, your life doesn't express itself or define itself or root itself or explain itself on the things you have. You're not someone because you have something. And so he takes it from possessions into character, from possessions into spirituality. And so the resources do not express who we are. We're not important. We're not valuable. We're not someone because we have. And so money is not an presentation of life. Look, this is who I am. I have this, this, and this, and this. And so we seek to do that, but that is not, money is not a presentation of life. Our character, our spirituality is what expresses who we are and our value and importance and our who we really are. Proverbs 22:1 says, a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. And favor is better than silver or gold. And so if I have favor with people, it's better. And favor with God, it's better than silver and gold. And if I have a good name in the community and good name, I mean, that person's honest, that person's upright, and that character attached to my name, that is of more valuable, that expresses in a greater way who I am. And so Proverbs 27:24 says, for riches do not last forever. And does a crown endure to all generations? If you make your money a king or you make it a ruler, it's going to fade away. It's not a presentation of life. Number 4 on what money is not. It's not a friend to build an intimate relationship with. Many, many verses in the Bible talk about this. Hebrews 13:5, keep your life free from love of money. Don't build an intimate, a love relationship with money. It's not a friend. Money is not something that's going to be there and always stay there. So keep your life free from love of money and be content with what you have. For he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Build a relationship with God, not with money. And so money is not a friend that you build an intimate relationship with. 2 Timothy 3:2 says, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy. Is this the list of characteristics you want to be labeled among? It says, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy. And so bad characteristics, lovers of money. Don't build their love relationship with money. 1 Timothy 3:3 says, not a drunkard, talking about the people that can be an overseer, a bishop, not a drunkard, not a violent, but gentle. Not a violent man, nor quarrelsome, not a lover of money. And so it's not supposed to love money. And so Ecclesiastes 5:10, he who loves money will not be established with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. 1 Timothy chapter number 6 verse 3, if anyone teaches a different doctrine and does not agree with the sound words of our Lord Jesus Christ and teaching that accords with godliness, it says, he is puffed up with conceit and understands nothing. He has an unhealthy craving for controversy and for quarrels about words which produce envy, dissension, slander, evil suspicions, and constant friction among people who are depraved in mind and depraved of the truth, imagining that godliness is a means of gain. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world, says. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmless desires that plague people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. Money is not a friend. It's not something we build a love relationship with. So money is not a king. Money is not a seat, a source of security. Money is not a presentation of life, how we express our importance, who we are. It's not our friend. It is not a defender of life. Sometimes we want to build money for our security, but also for our defense. Psalm 62:10 says, put no trust in extortion. Set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, set not your heart on them, it says. They may increase, that's okay. You set your heart on them, that's not okay. Ecclesiastes 7:12 says, for the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money. So wisdom, you can use it as a source of protection. Money, you can use it as a source of protection. Many times, money will protect you. And so I say, not a defender of life, but I want to make the point yet. And so it says, for the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. So money will often protect you, but it won't protect your life. In fact, it will do the opposite. The more money you have, the more your life is in danger. Often the case, because there's people that really want it and have killed many people for it. And so money money will often protect you. You can bribe people, you can pay people, you can hire people to guard around you. You can do all those things. But when it comes to your life, wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. When it comes down to life, money cannot stand where wisdom can. Proverbs 11:4 says, riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. And so righteousness delivers, but riches don't deliver from death, because it's not a defender of life. And so that's not for our security. 1 Timothy 6:17, as for the riches in this present age, charge them that they, it says, as for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. James 5:2 says, your riches have rotted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your riches have rotted away. Proverbs 11:28 says, whoever trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like a green leaf. Riches, our money is not a defender of life. Number 6, not a redeemer of the soul. Riches is not a redeemer of the soul. Deuteronomy 23:18 says, you shall not bring the fee of a prostitute or the wages of a dog into the house of the Lord your God in payment for any vow, for both of these are an abomination to the Lord your God. Psalm 49:6 says, those who trust in their wealth and boast of the abundance of their riches, truly no man can ransom another or give to God the price of his life. For the ransom of their life is costly and can never suffice. Nothing can redeem the soul of a man. No earthly possession, no earthly price, no money. It says that he should live on forever and never see the pit. For he sees that even the wise die, the fool and the stupid alike must perish and leave their wealth to others. Their graves are their homes forever, their dwelling place to all generations, though they call lands by their own names. I mean, look at, I own this land. They perish forever. Their dwelling place, it says the grave is their dwelling place forever. Mark 8:35 says, for whoever will save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel will save it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? For what can a man give in return for his soul? For whoever is ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him will the Son of Man also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. For what can a man give in return or in exchange for his soul? Money will not buy back the soul, even though many religions use that. You give, you redeem your soul. Amen. Catholicism is built around that principle. People try, and all they do is damn themselves more and more and more by trying to offer God money. And really, it doesn't even go to God. It goes just to these people, to his church, to enrich itself. And having this false teaching that people can redeem their soul with money by giving. No money can redeem the soul 1 ounce. It's not a redeemer of the soul. Number 7, and the lastly of what things money is not, it is not a reward for service. Now, I'm not saying that cannot include in a reward for service, because I think it can. But money itself is built around price, around wage, around value, around estimation, not around reward. Though reward cost money. And it's because reward does cost, it is indirectly connected to money. But reward is something above money, really. And so money is not really a reward for service. Money is a way to pay wages. Money is a way to buy things. Money is a way to pay a price. Money is a way to just determine value. But reward is something that is deeper than money. Colossians 3:24 says, knowing that from the Lord you will receive an inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. And so he's talking about inheritance as the reward. Matthew 10:41 says, the one who receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And the one who receives a righteous person because he is a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. Matthew 6:4 says, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And so we can include money to reward people for service, but money is not the reward, especially not a reward for serving God. Money represents price, but not reward. And I don't know how to deeply or clearly explain this, but reward is something that is higher. And so people that simply look for money, they're working for earthly things. A person like Hebrews 11:6 says, faith comes, or without faith it is impossible to please him. It says, and talks about God, for without faith it is impossible to please him, for he that comes to God must believe that he is, take it for granted that God, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And so true reward, or really what reward is something that's above earthly value, above money. And if you truly want to reward people, you don't just give them money, you give them something of eternal value, something of yourself, something of an inheritance, something of that expresses greater than just simply giving money. And so money may be involved in buying a reward, or even involved in the reward, but really a reward for service is greater than money. And so when we really want to reward people, God, how's he going to reward us? By honoring us, by taking us to his play, by giving us a place in his family, and all those things. Those are rewards, and of course they are they're not salvation, but many things God will reward us. Talks about his rewarding his servants and where he places them, and that is really the reward. And so some things money is not. And so the next one we're going to go into what it is. All right, we talked about what is money and what it is not, and let's talk about what it is. Number one, it's a tool. It's a tool to operate, to get things done. It is somewhat like a weapon, very effective, but also very dangerous. And so we have to, like when you use a saw, you're very careful that you use it correctly to do the job, but not to damage or hinder. Same thing, weapons, or money is like a weapon. It can be used in a very dangerous manner. But it can, as a tool that we need to get things done, and we must look at it as a tool. Okay, here I got the money, I have the tool to do this. And so like a couple of verses, Proverbs 17 verse 16 says, why should a fool have money in his hand to buy wisdom when he has no sense? And so like, why should he have this dangerous weapon when he doesn't know how to use it? or to get wisdom that will help him nothing, to buy something that will help him nothing. Ecclesiastes 9:12 says, "For the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it." And so Ecclesiastes 10:19 says, "Bread is made for laughter, and wine gladdens life, and money answers everything." And so definitely is a tool that we use to operate. Tool to get things done. Tool to do the work. Tool to do things properly. Can you imagine you want to get things, you have no money, you can't do it properly, but if you have the money, you can buy things. It's just a proper way of it. It's a proper tool. But there's also great danger on misusing this tool. In Psalm 15:5, we already read that, but it says, "Who does not put out his money at interest and does not take a bribe against the innocent." And so very important to not take bribes, not use our money to manipulate, to take advantage of people, they always say money is the best thing to make money, and it is, but it also can be very much misused that way, because I just use my money to draw money from the people that need money, or that have, like, to take advantage of the poor, and so I use my money just to make more money instead of using my money for good. And so very important. Number two, money is a negotiator. Everything will always come down to, when we're negotiating, will come down to money. And so it says money answers everything. It negotiates everything. And so everything will be negotiated, will always come down to money. You buy a house, you buy a car, you do a job. You determine everything will always come down to money. If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, how will he entrust into you true riches? Even when we speak about heavenly things, what we've done is really the negotiating point. So you have $1, it's your negotiating level. You have $1 million, it's your negotiating piece. And so it answers everything. It's always the matter of negotiating. So we ought to use it for negotiating, but not misuse it. Again, many warnings. We already read Psalm 15:5, not to just simply take interest, especially not from God's people, as the Bible teaches. Not to take a bribe against the innocent. Talks a lot about the bribe. Our Proverbs 17:8 says, "A bride is like a magic stone in the eyes of the one who gives it. Wherever he turns, he prospers." And so you can really bribe your way ahead. God doesn't favor that. Proverbs 17:23, "The wicked accepts a bribe in secret to pervert the ways of justice." And so we can really use it for a bribe. We've got to be very careful that we use it to negotiate, but not to manipulate. Not to gain an advantage over people or get ahead of them, or really use that to get our way. But we can use it as a tool. We can use it as a negotiator. And so there are many more verses that describe on the dangers of manipulating and bribing people with it. Proverbs 21:14 says, "A gift in secret averts anger, and a concealed bribe strong wrath." And so sometimes to keep people deal with anger, you give them a gift in secret, and it doesn't say that it's wrong. Sometimes to keep people from anger, you give them a gift in secret. Ecclesiastes 7:7 says, "Surely oppression drives the wise into madness, and a bribe corrupts the heart." And so, wow, a lot of bad ways we can use money to negotiate. Isaiah 1:23 says, "Your princes are rebels and companions of thieves. Everyone loves a bribe and runs after gifts. They do not bring justice To the fatherless and the widows, cause does not come to them. Isaiah 5:23 says, who acquit the guilty for a bribe and deprive the innocent of his right. And so you see a lot of that going on in the world, manipulating with money. It's not to manipulate, it's to negotiate, not to manipulate, to get our way behind the scenes. Exodus 18:21 says, moreover, look for able men from all the people, men who fear God, who are trustworthy and hate a bribe, and place such men over the people as chiefs of thousands and hundreds and of fifties and of tens. And so it says, make sure the people hate bribes, put such people in charge. And so it's a negotiator, but not one we ought to use to bribe people or to pay off people behind the scenes. And it's an image of earthly value. Bread is made for laughter, and wine gladdens life, and money answers everything. It determines value. And so we want to determine what something is worth. We always go back to money. Genesis 43:12 says, take double the money with you. Talking about carry back with you the money that was returned in the month of your sacks, and so, or the mouth of your sacks. And so perhaps it was an oversight. So they talk about where Joseph put the money in their sacks, and so that was Matthew 25:27 says, then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers. So talk about that if we have, like, don't just take those things that God has given you and let them go to rotten, invest them. And so because money means value, determines earthly value. It declares of heavenly means. For thus says the Lord, you were sold for nothing, and you shall be redeemed without money. Using money as the basis to declare the value of a soul. Isaiah 55:1, come everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price. And so why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen diligently to me and eat that which is good, and delight yourself in rich food. So he talks about things that cannot be, and so he uses money as to declare heavenly riches. And so even though all these verses tell us that heavenly means cannot be bought with money, they still use money to declare that. It is like you know that a beautiful house on such and such a street, your heavenly house is not like that. That one would not even compare to it. The house is still the basis for the conversation, for the explanation. Same with money is a basis to explain heavenly riches, even though money cannot buy heavenly riches, but we use that to describe the honor as a basis. Earthly means mean nothing, but without them, there would be no basis to understand heavenly means. Like Jeremiah 32:44 says, fields shall be bought for money, and deeds shall be signed and sealed and witnessed in the land of Benjamin. And so using money. Number 5, a replacer of the soul. Proverbs 1:19 says, such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. People choose the soul or money. What can man give in exchange for his soul? Like Psalm 10:3 says, for the wicked boast of the desire of his soul, and the one greedy for gain curses and renounces the Lord. And so they sell their soul for money. Matthew 26:16 16:26 says, "For what will it profit a man if he gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul?" Matthew 10:23. And Jesus looked around and said to his disciples, "How difficult it will be for those who have wealth to enter the kingdom of God." They replace the soul. So money presents itself as the other option instead of salvation, instead of having the soul. So we have to be careful that we don't choose money over the soul. Come, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come, buy and eat. And so it carries on there in Isaiah. It's an instigator. Isaiah 1:23 says, "Your princes are rebels and companions of thieves. Everyone loves a bribe and runs after gifts." Ezekiel 13:19, "You have profaned me among my people for handfuls of barley and for pieces of bread, putting to death souls who should not die and keeping alive souls who should not live, by your lying to my people who listen to lies." Money itself is not evil or even bad. It is practically essential, but it is also an instigator. Because of it, people do many things. They sell themselves, their body, their time, their soul, commit crimes, kill, murder, cheat, lie, manipulate, steal. Why? For money. It's instigate. And it's an instigator. People always use money to instigate. Men give gifts to all prostitutes, it says, but you give your gifts to all your lovers, bribing them to come to you from every side with your whoring. And so it's an instigator for evil, for manipulation, for crime, for murder. Money, what it is and what it isn't. We need money. Money answers everything. Money is a tool. Money is a way to do business. Money is a way to get ahead. Money is the way to get established. Money is many things, but we must keep it in a biblical perspective. May you use your money to honor the Lord. God bless you. Thank you for listening to this message. I hope it was a blessing to you. We have a ministry called Answers, providing scripturally based answers for life's questions. If you have any question about life, about the scriptures, please send us that question and we will send you an answer. The send button is just below the video. You can just press the send button and send us a message, and you will hear from us very shortly. May God bless you.